Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CEO Club. Today we have a very special guest, Abdul Shakur. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Abdul, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. This is a nice surprise, to be fair. I've got the tea and the nice biscuits. I can't complain.
You got the nice biscuits, a little
Uh,
throwback for you.
Trust me, I haven't seen these in 10 years. I don't know if they still made them.
Hey, listen, nice little treat. They'll get you through the podcast.
Oh, yeah,
We've got a lot of
definitely.
questions to get through, a lot of topics to cover. So let's start with a little introduction. So for our listeners that might not know who you are, what is it that you do? What's your business? Talk to me about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I run Shakur Investment Group, which started in 2017. And the idea behind it was to make investments more accessible for people. Typically investments were just made for the wealthy. So I spent years looking after and advising with the wealthy families. And I thought if I can take the same strategies as the wealthy, but scale them down to the angel investor or that person that wants to invest, everyone can have the same level of returns or the same level of information, the same level of resources, the same level of opportunities. If I can create that in a way where people can all benefit and they're not struggling in their lives financially, that was a goal for me when I first started. And how we kind of protect a lot of the investments that our clients make is that we own the supply chain. So we started buying the businesses that provide the services to the property developers, to the care providers, to the businesses that we invest in. So we've got 8 companies in house, and we're growing as a firm. We've done 10 million in the last 2 years of investment of investors' capital, and yeah, we're for me there's a global vision behind it, and I'm not going to stop till I get there.
I love that, mashallah. You're doing really well. It's a very interesting business model, which I personally am interested in. So I'm going to ask you a lot of
Go for it.
selfish questions
Mm.
during this podcast. So, like we do with all our guests, I like to throw it back, start right from the beginning, and work through the story from there. So, I want to talk a little bit about your childhood, what life was like growing up for you.
So I grew up in a imam's household, so a religious scholar's household. So you got to bear in mind I was strict, a very strict family. So it
Is
was
that your
like
dad?
very, yeah, that's my father, so right. And I was prematurely born. So when you've got the two mixed together, right, you grow up with your family being overprotective of you. You can't do sports, you can't do certain things. You need a comfortable life because they want to protect you as their child, right? Naturally, every parent doesn't want their child to struggle. So their idea of that, you always want to protect you. That means you shouldn't be struggling, you shouldn't be grafting hard, you shouldn't be doing all those things. So from the get go, it was like as if I was treated in a way which is like I couldn't kind of like open my wings to kind of grow. Like I had to be safe all the time.
Yeah.
But in my head, I knew there was something meant more for me. So from a very young age, I picked up public speaking. My dad taught me public speaking, in front of, stood on stage in front of thousands of people at the age of 9, 10 years old. And, that gave me the confidence. I was a shy, introverted kid. And most people still think that I'm quite extroverted. But, people who really know me know that I'm quite an introverted individual. But because of what you see online, you think, okay, yeah, he's an extroverted guy. He's got all the confidence in the world. But really and truly, I've got that introvertness. It's just that you pick up the skills to become extroverted.
Yeah.
And so I was selling SIM cards in year seven when nobody knew they were free. So there was a time period between like people you couldn't get SIM cards for free, but there was like people started getting them for free. But what I used to do was I used to sell the numbers. So I used to sell like if you had a really good number, like a 777, 444, something, right?
Yeah.
Like I could sell that number for a higher price. So I used to go around school, selling SIM cards. And then you like when I got to year nine, I used to sell water damaged phones. So I used to get water damaged phones. I used to put them in a box, put them on a radiator, fix them all up, get new batteries, sort them out, get them working again, and go and sell flip phones in school.
Smart.
So like, and I got into like social media at very early stage. Like when Facebook and Instagram weren't really about. Like Facebook was about, but it wasn't like prominent at the time. I got into Facebook in those days. And I utilize social media from a very young age to build my sort of brand and reputation. People think, okay, some people are blowing up overnight. I haven't really blown up in the same way that other people think I have. For me, it's the quality of relationships I have. Like, how many clients can you actually get from your social media? Like, that's the kind of key question I ask people. You could have a million followers, but can you really pick up business from it? So I went into the social media world really earlier on. I used to do it for charities. So most people don't know this. So I learned all the business and entrepreneurial skills by fundraising in humanitarian charity worlds for the bigger charities, because you're event organizing, you're selling tickets, you're going sponsorship, you're speaking on stage, you're doing all these things, right? And what's happening is you're picking up the skills that you need to run a business, because to run an event is a little bit like a business. There's so many different arms of an event that you need the skills to be able to juggle everything and project manage. So that was like kind of the goal for me was, okay, how do I take my skills in the charity world to give back? I always had this idea that I wanted to make change. One, because I didn't have much growing up, but also there were people worse off than me in the world. And for me, that was always that attachment there. How can we make a difference in the world? I very quickly understood that you can't create change from a bottom up. Like, all this protesting, all this struggling, if you're not in a position of strength, if you're not in a position of financial wealth, it's very hard to give back. Very, very hard. And even in this country, for example, Muslims were the most giving people, right? But even then, how much change can we truly, truly create? And the best way to create that change is to build and create success. So I set on this business journey from a very young age. I started my first business at 16. Um, my father kicked me out for dropping out of college. I lived on the
Okay.
streets for a little bit.
So I'm going to stop you there just before we go on to the 16, and I'll ask you a couple of questions and then
Yeah,
I'll go on to there.
go for it.
So, so what were your mom and dad like then? You mentioned your dad was quite religious.
So my dad was this. He gave me tough love. Like, it was that type of love. Like, it was very disciplined, routine driven. Like, for example, one of the things about being on time was a huge thing I learned from my dad, because school started at 9. I would be at the doors at 8 o'clock, an hour early to school. Now I can't be late. Like, even for example, coming here today, even if I'm a few minutes late, I wanted to text you to ensure that you are aware of it.
You
So
did, yeah.
being on time is important for us, and I realize that that's the impression that you set from the get go. So, like, my dad gave me things that made me disciplined. He drilled into me that you have to work hard, that you have to give, and that it's not always about you. Depending on, regardless of, I saw my dad struggle even when, like, he was an imam in the community. You don't get paid much for that stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Right? But you're constantly out there giving, and you don't always get anything back. So you see that side of your family. So I saw that side of my father, that discipline, that routine, that giving mentality. And for my mom, it was more about the love, the unconditional love of just knowing that, because I was prematurely born, so I didn't start walking till a lot later in my life. And there were moments in my, like, primary school where most people were walking, but I used to get too tired to walk. So my mom used to carry me to school at certain days.
Wow.
So, like, you gotta think, like, I'm the youngest. I'm like, there's a massive age gap between me and my older siblings. My parents are quite elderly, so I'm like second generation. But I'm like, my mom was in her, like, late 30s and 40s when I was born. So, like, there wasn't, like, my mom wasn't like 100%. They used to get tired, but my mom still carried me to school. Even till today, when I walk into the household of my parents, my mom is always working, and she will, regardless of what time I walk in, my mom will make me food.
Yeah.
And it's that level of unconditional love that you can't learn anywhere. You can't get that from anyone else but your mother. And for me, that's where, and don't get me wrong, I was ungrateful for it. Growing up, I was very ungrateful for it, because I was that person that was like, why do we not have enough money? Why can we not buy the things that our friends buy? Why don't I have a PlayStation? Why don't I have a laptop? Why don't I have these things? And so for me, it made me very kind of bitter. But as you grow older, and when you move out for the first time, when you get married, when things happen, right, you start to appreciate the small things that your parents do for you. Like just being able to wash your clothes, cook your food, make sure you get something on time, make sure everything's set and ready for you, doing your own bed, all of that stuff, right? We're ungrateful for, because we just see it as our parents, they do it as a norm. But when you're older and you have your own kids and you get married, you start to see actually your parents are the biggest blessing that you'll ever have.
It's really powerful that you mentioned that, because when you are younger and you don't understand and you see people with their laptops going on trips, going on holidays, and you're missing out on that, you do feel bitter for sort of thinking, why am I missing out on this? Why
Yeah.
can't I have that? Without seeing the bigger picture and seeing the sacrifices that your parents are actually making for you. So what kind of struggles you just mentioned there that you faced struggles growing up in your childhood. Would you say you're from a working class background then?
I think we were always on the poverty line in many ways. And, but my dad never made us feel that way. And that was the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Like, one thing my dad never scrimped on was food.
Okay.
There was always just food, there was always, like, we didn't feel poor because we were fed well.
Yeah.
Like, that was the reality of it, right? But we didn't have a lot of money. Like, the £15 to go on a trip was a big thing. Like, that was a huge thing. But it was like, my dad always, like, he got a lot of the kids married. He paid stupid amounts in tuition fees for me. Like, stupid amounts.
Okay.
Like, he made sure he invested in us heavily. But even the little that he had, and tuition wasn't expensive. You're talking, like, I remember one point we were paying £100 a week for tuition and stuff. And when you've got nothing to give and you're still paying those levels of tuition fees, it is ridiculous. We'd go out to places. My dad would drop me off, pick me up weekends. We were in summer schools were like a thing. So even in summer, we would be in tuition from 10 till 3 p.m. Like a normal school day type of thing.
Yeah.
So for us, it was, I look back and I think my dad really shaped the person I am today, indirectly or directly. There were certain habits that I picked up that were positive. There's certain skills that he gave me. There were certain things that I look back and I think, wow. But at the same time, like, you have to grow up to be your own person. So at some point in my life, I just, I packed my bags and thought, I need to get out of the city. I need to move to the capital. I need to go do something.
So you were born and brought up in Birmingham?
I was born and brought up in Birmingham, but I lived 8 years in London.
Okay. What's Birmingham like as a city?
It's a very small city where everyone. It's a big city in the sense that, like in terms of the UK, United Kingdom, Birmingham is always valued and it's seen as a great city, but it's very small. Everybody still kind of knows each other.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be successful in the city unless people want you to be successful in the city. And that's mostly small towns. You hit this point where you'll hit your glass ceiling, and you'll have to move out of the city at some point. And that's what I did, and I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I did that at a younger age rather than waiting 10, 15 years to then move to London and then go do business in the capital. I'm glad I spent 3 or 4 years in Birmingham as part of early stages of business, and then I moved out to London because it's the best decision I ever made.
When did you move out? Or what age?
I was 19.
19. Okay, so just before we talk about you moving out, your teenage years, any businesses that you were involved with, or when did you first get into entrepreneurship?
So I was involved in a lot of community stuff growing up, and people laugh at this. There's a lot of people in my community that be like, "Yeah, I used to talk a big game, so I used to be like, I'm gonna become a millionaire. Watch me." And I just knew it from like the get go that the millionaire status was like something that could be achieved. Later on, you don't realize that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But as a young kid, it was like, I'm going to do it. But I was doing community work at the same time. So people were like, how are you doing community work and still going to go make $1 million? There's a correlation there.
Was this goal to make $1 million then? Was that just because of the poverty that you'd experienced?
Yeah, it was poverty that I experienced, but it was like you look back at the magazines that I used to listen to, the amount of research and the amount of time I spent on the internet. For some reason, it was just like that's the idea of success, right?
Yeah.
It was £1 million. Later on, obviously, you grow up and things change, and you realize the £1 million doesn't mean anything. But
what kind of magazines? What kind of shows?
they I used to Dragon's Den was one, but like they used to be like this, like James Caan. I saw him in my early days.
Yeah.
And he was in the recruitment business, and he just made it. And he was like, I saw him, and I was like, why isn't there another young Asian entrepreneur about? Why can we not see a young brand face in the community who's a role model and example? And that's what I struggled with the most. Now, obviously, we've got so many role models on social media. You're talking 14 years ago, 15 years ago, when entrepreneurship wasn't popular.
Yeah.
There were no role models about. Even me going out there networking as a young entrepreneur back then, it was only like a bunch of other guys with me, and that were non-Asian. I was the only brand face in the room majority of the time. I'd walk into corporate events with like being the only brown guy in the room, and there were people in their 70s and 80s successful, and thinking, who's this Asian kid coming out of nowhere? But I somehow just got into rooms, even for free most of the time.
Yeah.
Even like, I spent most of my time at the age of 16 to 18. It wasn't really about making money. I used to love networking. We used to go to like 2 events a day, 3 events a day. We would go and pitch stupid amounts of money just because we could.
When you say networking and pitching for money, can you explain that a little bit?
Like for example, my first business was a marketing agency. Now that
Right.
marketing agency had different elements to the marketing agency because we were at they had different revenue streams. So we would go provide marketing to local businesses. Back then, social media nobody understood. So you charge 30 quid a month for social media management back in those days, right? And then we would take on young people who were unemployed, and we would give them the creative skills, or they would have creative skills but they couldn't get jobs. So we gave them freelance money. So we gave 50% all of our profits, or everything that we made, we gave it to the people that we did. But we got a lot of government funding. So we got a crazy. We used to go pitch for government funding, and there's
Okay.
a story, right? Me and my other friend, my colleague, who also had cleaning business at the time, we had a social impact element to it. He walked into a room and he was pitching this government agency or this housing association on like, okay, some public funding, and he wrote a couple of hundred quid down. I go, what are you doing? I go back and ask for 10 grand.
Okay.
Why are you asking for you looked at my application, you thought, okay, I'm gonna go back and ask for like, yeah, and then I went back and asked for 20 grand. But we set this limitation on ourselves from a very young age as to what's achievable, what's possible. Even in our business, when we think about figures, right? We look at figures and we think, oh yeah, this isn't like we have a mental block. The first mental block when you first start your business is earning 2 to 3 grand a month.
Yeah.
The next mental block is when you hit 10 grand a month. The mental block after that is when you start to hit 20 to 50 grand a month. So that's when you get those mental blocks. So when you're starting off, just to be able to make a living wage or a profit is a bonus. To be able to
Completely.
replace your salary in a business, it was like, that was a dream at one point.
Yeah. A lot of
Like,
people listening will probably relate to that.
you know what it is? There's a figure that came out. There's a stat that came out probably about 5, 6 years ago. It said only 4%, by the way, of 18 to 35-year-olds make a profit or a living wage from their business, or even to pay the roof over your head and food and the bills, to be able to you know to look after your parents.
Do you think there's a lot of pressure on social media now to look successful before you actually are
Absolutely,
successful?
this whole fake it till you make it, in my opinion, it's what's hurting us. Because when you're surrounded by real wealth, I'll give you an example. I went. There's a meeting that I went to. I went to pitch him for 1.2 million. So I've walked into this deal. So I've walked into the. He's like, oh, I'm not in Central London. Can you come closer to where I live? I'm three-piece suited. I'm suited and booted. I'm ready to go into this meeting. Right. I turn up to a local cafe where he is, a coffee shop or something. He turns up wearing scruffy clothes, and he goes to me. I just got off the bus.
No way.
This guy's net worth. He probably flips £1 million of property worth every single month. He probably has got 10 million, 20 million easy of like his net worth. You're talking someone that's got like 100 grand watch collection. You've got someone that's like crazy amounts of money. Money that we think, okay, like for him buying £1 million property it's like child play.
So the question would be, why would he be getting the bus?
Because the real wealthy people are often the most humblest. They're the people that don't want to show their wealth. That's what I realize. I'm talking people who have actually got real money behind them. So when I think about all the people on social media who are showing off to the world their nice cars, their nice lives, their all these other things that go on, I'm thinking, let's see your accounts, let's see your management accounts, let's see what's really under the hood. Are you
It's
talking a big game, or are you able to do a big game? Like for example, last year we spent close to 100 grand on marketing, sponsoring awards, and apparently the whole idea of like, and you need money to sponsor stuff.
yeah.
Like you need crazy amount of money to sponsor stuff. It's
It's
not
not cheap,
cheap.
not at all.
You're taking 10, 20 grand a sponsorship.
Yeah.
How many people can you know that can actually do that? Hey, you can spend a grand on ads,
Or the cheaper ones, yeah.
or you can, get a billboard for like a few days and a few weeks, right? Try sponsoring corporate events, or try sponsoring events where you're putting a serious amount of cash out.
You need real money for that.
You need money for that, and that's where I think, okay, are people just creating a perception of success, or are they actually successful? And there's a huge idea that buying properties will often make you uber rich. Like I know people who have £20 million portfolio, crazy amount of money, but the cash flow on a monthly basis is they struggle with it. They struggle on monthly income. Just because you have assets, it gives you leverage, right? So it gives you leverage to refinance, take out money, go and buy more properties. On paper, you're worth a lot of money, and the banks value that. But when I sit back and I thought, do I become a property developer or do I start buying in or investing in businesses? Which one would I do? I thought about buying investing in businesses. Why? Because I value the cash flow. I value the monthly income that's coming in every single month. So you could have, I don't know, 30, 40 properties, but you could still be in a full-time job.
So how did you first get into business then?
You just start and sell. It was literally that.
So you found
There was, and I think Steve Jobs said it perfectly. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. What that means is that sometimes you just have to get up and go every day. And that's all it was. I just got up and just got on with it. Wherever life took me at that point. If you told me 10 years ago, would I want to be running an investment firm? I would say no.
And what age were you when you first started your business?
So this investment firm was started in 2017.
Right.
So you're talking about 6, 7 years?
6, 7. So you've had this business for 6, 7 years.
Yeah, 6, 7 years. So 2017, I've had this company, and I started there, and I'm 29 now.
Giving your age away, yeah.
So, and again, most people don't think I'm 29 either. Because when I say to people I've got 14, 13, 14 years of experience in business, they're like, how?
So probably I'd have guessed about 33 year, 32,
Say
33 year.
34, 35. I was looking at a baby face, but like,
Yeah.
you still have that element of like, okay, if you know what you're talking about,
Maturity levels, yeah.
and especially for young people in business, they have this idea that, oh, we have to, like, the old people don't do business with us. Most majority of my clients are in their 40s. I have more friends who are in their 40s than I have people in my own age group.
Why is that?
Because I'm not interested in going off on holidays and buying nice cars and doing all of that stuff. That's not of interest to me.
So do you feel like it's harder to relate to people within your sort of age group?
Oh yeah, 100%. I can't relate to them because that doesn't mean I'm above anyone. I've still got the same 3 or 4 friends I've had since I was 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
I usually call them the boys, and we literally got a WhatsApp group called the boys who never meet up because we've got so busy in our own lives that we never get a chance to meet.
Yeah.
But I still have the same circle of friends. But when we meet, we all still split the bill or still all pay for the bill the same way, regardless of who's wealthy and who's not. Because friendships aren't based on money. Friendships are, and this is where we've been told this idea that a lot of young kids have been told this idea of you need to cut your friends out if they're not making you money or if they're not supporting your dreams.
Yeah.
Or if they're not, or if you're, or like, don't talk to your family members who are not supporting you. That is probably the worst advice I've ever had.
Okay.
Because
Elaborate on that.
when you get older, right, you start to value, or when you start to get to a level of money, you realize money gets you a certain circle, a certain crowd, but they don't make you real friends. They don't give you people who you can just pick up the phone to and say, I'm having a shit day today. And I just need someone to talk to. And I need someone to just be around. All those type of people have always been people not of wealth that I've been able to reach out to and just have a honest conversation about how my mental health is at the time. Like that is more valuable and being able to switch off from business is more valuable than having wealthy friends around you.
So there's more to friendships than just business.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And same with like, even our parents, we have this thing, right? Where they may never support you or they may not understand you. And don't be angry towards that. You can still love your parents. You can still love your friends, the people around you, but still understand the fact that they may not get what you do. It took me that was the biggest thing holding me back in my early years of business, was the idea that the world is against me, that nobody is supporting me, that I've got no one in my corner, that I used to have tantrums like in front of my siblings and everyone, right? That why you guys don't get it, you guys don't support me, da da da, and that bitterness, and that, so it gets ingrained into your brain, and once that gets ingrained into your brain, that's going to stop you from becoming wealthy later on in life. So at some point in time, you have to deal with the issues. You literally have to deal with your own issues, and that a lot of the time is derives from your childhood. I've literally had to go through, and most people don't know this, but I've had to go through counseling because you have to deal directly on with the things that are holding you back in life. Like I remember the guy I went to see in counseling. He was like, "I need you to go have an honest conversation with your father." Think about that for a second. You're talking to an Asian kid with a very traditional parent, right? You need to go tell your dad how you feel. Anyone you say that to now will run a mile. They will never be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like, that's courage. That's dealing with your issues. But we don't celebrate those things. What we celebrate is, oh, he's just bought himself a nice house. He's just bought himself a nice car. How about the man that's growing? Because you get you get to a level of success, right, in business. So you could have all the skills, all the knowledge, the resources, the information in the world, right? But if personally you're not that person that can handle that level of success, you will always then drop. Your money will drop, your success will always drop down. You'll never be able to pass that because a lot of people spend time focusing on how to grow their business, but very few people focus on how much they need to do to grow themselves as an individual. I had all the skills, I had all the knowledge, I had all the information, I had all the resources at hand to be successful, but I constantly was going in this cycle of failure because I needed to grow as a person. I needed to deal with my issues, deal with the insecurities that I had, and only then did I start to see this level of success.
And just diving into those issues and sort of insecurities briefly, what kind of issues were you dealing with personally that were holding you back from growing?
So, because I was prematurely born, right, I was physically always insecure because I have really skinny legs. I always have foot issues. I've always felt like I am not a man because of the lack of physical ability that I have.
Right.
And that was affecting my confidence day in, day out for like the first 5 years of my business career because I felt like I wasn't just man enough to be able to be there, to be that person that could walk around. You know, when you see, like, have you ever been to Canary Wharf, right, in
Yeah,
London?
yeah, I love Canary
And
Wharf.
you see these guys that are sharply dressed, really kind of like the fitted suits, in great shape, slick back hair,
Yeah.
like chiseled, right? Like the idea of like that's what social media is portrayed, right? And you go into Canary Wharf and you see that, you start to feel insecure because you're like, as a in my physical being, in my physical self, I don't feel that way. So I had to build myself up by going into the gym, by surrounding myself with people who valued what I had to offer. And now it's the complete opposite. Yeah, physical ability makes a difference in confidence, and the gym is important. And I say to people like, your health is a lifestyle, which is why I say everyone needs a David Lloyd membership, because it's like an essential. Because it's not just going to the gym or working out; it's a lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
That's a lifestyle that you should have, which is not entirely expensive, like paying a couple of grand a month on a Lamborghini, but actually you're living a lifestyle that's actually going to benefit you. So for me, it's like, okay, I can have that lifestyle, but I can be mentally sharper. And as men, we have this thing that we don't look back at our past. We don't value our past. We look back at our past, and because as men, we're harsh on ourselves, right? We have this thing where we're constantly looking to the future, that we forget about who we are as people. We forget what we've done already. I had the same problem. I've done so many things, so many businesses, so many ventures, done so many exciting things that I didn't value it. I used to sit there, I'm not good enough. I'm not there yet. I'm not successful enough. I used to constantly beat myself up about it. But then when you start to look back and you start to actually like sit in front of people who are not in business, who are in a completely different world, and sit in front of them and watch them just pay attention to who you are. Watch them soak in that information. And then you start to see, oh shit, I've got something important to say. I do have skills and I do have knowledge. So now what I started to do was I started to have a journal. And this journal isn't like, okay, I'm sitting there pouring my emotions out. No. This journal is a completed task list on my day. So I don't write my to-do list in there. I don't write my emotions in there. I just write down the things that I've done in a day. So I'm like, okay, I went to the gym today. I had this meeting with so and so. I pitched this. I made this many phone calls. We made these decisions. And at the end of the day, I look back at this journal and I think, have I done enough today? Brilliant. And I can switch off.
Helps give you that peace.
Gives you that peace. And like entrepreneurs are more likely to suffer from mental health. And I'm like, even like people around me, they say, how do you sleep peacefully at night? I'm a head to pillow guy. You put me, my head gets to the pillow and I'm gone. I'm knocked out cold straight away. I don't have trouble sleeping because I value myself enough to know that actually I've done enough in my day. I can switch off peacefully and I can go to sleep, and I need that sleep because tomorrow morning is a new day. It's a new beginning and it's a new way to get on in life. Regardless of how much shit is going on in my life,
Yeah.
how much pressure I'm dealing with, I can still fall asleep.
The advice that the counselor gave for you to have that conversation with your dad,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the listeners are all wanting to know. Did you end up having that conversation with your dad, or and how did that feel?
It, I was nearly in tears at the point because it's like it felt like a weight lifted off my chest. But also, I had to turn around to my dad and actually make a list of things and say, "Dad, I love you," basically. And in our culture, it doesn't. You don't say those words to your father.
Yeah, you don't have that
You
relationship.
don't
Yeah.
have that kind of relationship. Your dad is a respect figure. That's you don't have that relationship unlike your mother, right? So I remember writing down all the things that my dad has given me. I'm not talking about physical things. I'm talking about skills, attributes, character traits that have got me to where I am. Like one of the things I talked about was time, right? This timekeeping, this punctuality. That was important to me. Like I didn't realize how much that had an impact in my life now. But I look back and I think about he gave me public speaking. He didn't put everything on a silver plate for me, which means that I now have this grit or this attitude towards working hard. He didn't he didn't make things easy for me. So it built up my resilience in life. Like you have to sit there and make a list of all the things. And I remember like I even got I had to write them in English, right? And then at a later point, I even got my sister to translate it and send it to my father because I needed him to understand that I love my parents and I love you as a father, but equally, I've never been able to express that in a way. I've never
Yeah.
been able to understand that because I was holding on to so much anger and pain, and I was blaming them for the lack of success that I had in life.
That's deep. Yeah.
Like, I don't think people understand. If we did that as a community, as a family, we would have less problems in our communities. We would have thriving children. We'd have better relation with our parents. And it was a wake up call because I remember when I think I was about 14, 15, I was volunteering in a local community organization, and it nearly brought me to tears. That there was this elderly woman with like a niqab
Yeah.
walked into the community center. Her husband had died. She was in her 70s or 80s with a walking stick. She came into the community office. There were some lawyers sitting upstairs, and the UK were about to deport her. And she goes, "I've got no one there. My husband's died." And we walked into the elderly care home around the corner, and they were living off tin food. And for me, that puts it into perspective because I'm like, we've got so much money in this world. How can people in our own communities in the UK still be struggling? Like that for me is pain. Like that for me is painful. That's why I'm a big believer that if you give, and even in our religion it says, if you give, you will never lose money. That's why my mindset around money, I don't put it on a pedestal anymore. I don't see money as a thing that I have to have. You can take everything away from me now. I'll still be able to build it, and I'll still be happy. But one thing that pains me is people struggling. Is that parent that can't support their children but is doing their best. Or that elderly woman when there's Ferraris parked down the road from her, or a road full of nice cars down the road from her, but people are still, and she's living off tin can food, and we have to drop some tin can food after her. Like, why is that the case? There's enough money in this world to eradicate every level of poverty.
What would
But
you say the solution is to that?
good people, good human beings. Like, let's take away. Like, don't get me wrong. I have ambitions to build a billion-dollar company, right? Like, that's where my ambitions are. I want to have a global firm. But in the meantime, I'm gonna lift people alongside with me. I'm gonna go out my way, even if it puts me in struggle to help people. I am going to. Well, my retirement plan isn't to sit on a beach. My retirement plan is to set up a business school to invest into young people in developing countries, to give our next generation the tools, resources, money to be able to succeed in life. Like how many times have we seen? And we were talking about this earlier on the boxing sphere. Like how many people in athletes that don't get enough financial support, money, resources, skills, knowledge, or not protected from a business sense to be able to succeed in life. Like that, like that shouldn't be a barrier. And I want to remove that barrier because I had to struggle to overcome that barrier of like I didn't have money, I didn't grow up in wealth, I didn't have a lot of resources. I just had my time and effort. I don't want people to go through the 7 years of pain that I had to get to get to the level that I am now. I don't want people to go through that pain. I want people to be like, we've got a concept, we've got an idea, we've got passion. Even if you don't have anything, we've got passion that they can go out there and create a life for themselves. That is the basic fundamental of why we, like, especially in a like they say, wealthy people get to a stage right where the money doesn't make them happy anymore. So they go out and they give these glamorous philanthropic sort of donations and things like that to make them feel good. But what about when you're on your journey? Why can you not help people along the way? Why do we have to be so money driven that we? It's funny because I'm in the investment world, and
Yeah.
I get, I'm like, I'm sitting with clients who are investing money, millions of pounds into things, but equally, I'm like, don't hold on to it that much. Don't put it on a like people are like trying to save and scrimp on every little pound and penny. I'm like, don't see it in that world. Don't see it in that way. Don't see money in that way. Because if you put money above relationships, above family, above above the community, above giving back, you will never be content. You will never be. You can have all the money in the world, but it won't matter because you won't feel happy inside. You won't be content.
Do you feel like money buys happiness, or
I think money buys resources and opportunities. It takes away the struggle and the poverty, but I'm that guy that I prefer to struggle. You know, when you get like I've been doing this for 13 years. There's people who are in their first few years of business and they get a little bit of success and they go out and spend it, right? I've gone through 4 or 5 business ideas, concepts. I've gone through the struggle. I've been in it for 14 years. For me, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. But I see as money doesn't money helps. Money, you need to understand money. You need to understand how to invest it. You need to understand how to make it. But more importantly, skills make you happier. Skills give you the ability to come alive. I'll give you an example, right? You're making a suit for someone. That skill and that ability is what makes you happy. But we've ingrained into our mind that it's not that makes us happy, but actually it's the paycheck at the end when the guy buys the suit.
yeah, it's the process.
It's the like I love sitting in front of a client and creating a roadmap for them and saying here's the next 5 or 7 things that you need to do to build wealth or to become successful or to do something, right? I love seeing like I've worked with like successful millionaires and I've taken deals of 1 million plus off people to invest into property development projects and things like that. But what makes me more happier is when I help the person investing 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, that 10 grand or that 5 grand that they might have. It makes more of a dent in their life. A lot of people talk about success as millions, right? But imagine you had an extra 2 grand a month coming into your account. Imagine you had an extra grand or a couple of grand a year. How much that would impact your life. You can only see that level of impact in at a lower level. Once you get to a certain level of success, 10 grand, a grand ain't gonna make a difference to you. If you're earning 10 grand a month, you literally your mindset switches up. It's weird. It's like you that grand a month or that grand spend doesn't mean much to you anymore. Or
Yeah.
making an extra grand a month is like, yeah, okay, cool, I made an extra grand a month.
Once you start making 2, 3 thousand pound a month the first time, it's a huge lifestyle change.
But for most people, earning that extra £500 over, or like, £500, say it's like, I don't know, 3 grand, say they get a return of 3, 4, 5 grand in 6 months' time, right? Like, that is going to make more of a dent in their life or allow them to feel more at ease in financial success terms and financial like sort of well-being terms. That will make them feel better and give them peace of mind than it takes a millionaire who's going to make £1 million in a deal, who's already made his millions.
Yeah.
So everything has to have a sense of purpose attached to not just who you are as a person. There's different levels of purpose, right? There's purpose of like how you help your family and your kids and yourself, and there's that level of purpose. There's purpose is like, okay, my purpose around my business is to be able to achieve like to make an impact through like some connection through our business, right? They call it social responsibility or social impact. But then there's the other level of purpose, which is to be to actually create real change where it matters, and to do it without an agenda, to do it without without feeling like you have to do it, without feeling like you like there's a gain back that comes back to you. Like you're gonna get something in return for that donation. that sense of purpose, or that sense of, even like, and again, not everyone has to give money. People can give time. Time's our biggest commodity, and if we can create more time for ourselves in our lives, then it's then we'll have a chance to be able to create change. Like, most people don't know this, but I was last year. I was coaching an under 12 football team alongside running my businesses, alongside like all the other stuff in life. And for those that don't know about coaching, you got Tuesdays training, you got a Saturday, you got recreational football, Sunday you got league games, you got to watch the kids, do the countouts, you got to do all of that running around, you got to drive to venues. It's a commitment. How many people, ask how many businesses owners can have that level of commitment. I went and spoke at a school recently, and the funny thing is, the careers advisor at a school told me that she finds it hard to get business owners in the room, because unless they're getting paid to do it, or unless or like just to give their time.
No way.
And I was like, the nerve of like people who get to a level of success don't want to step down and come off that pedestal and just give. Everything comes from God. So the only way you're going to become more successful than you are now is by pleasing God. That is the only way. If I don't have an element of a religion in my day, and again, I was forced into religion, so growing up, right? You could say, because I grew up in that household, and I went the complete opposite way. I did everything, like the drugs, all the other stuff, right? But I came back and fell in love with religion, because I realized that religion is the only thing that can give me peace in life. That is the only thing that's going to make me more successful. Fall in love with God and do your best, and know that God's in your corner. Not just pray for the sake of praying. Know that God's there for you. Like, that belief that God's going to look after you. You will never run out of money in your life.
So your dad's religious. You said you were forced into sort of religion, and then you went the opposite sort of route into drugs and that kind of stuff. Talk to me about that. Then, do you feel like if religion is forced upon you, you somehow shy away from it?
I think it's just how religion is taught nowadays. Religion isn't taught with the true element of its beauty. It's taught with rules and guidelines and the strictness of it. But what about the beauty of religion? We don't talk about the beauty of religion. The example of our prophet, the example of, like, most people don't tell you that when you have everything going wrong in your life, the only person that's truly going to listen is God. The only thing that's going to give you peace at night is that prayer, that head in the prayer mat. Not closing that deal, not making X amount of money and solving that problem that you currently have financially. It's putting your head on a prayer mat.
So what was your mindset at the time then? What made you move away from religion, go down the route of
I think it's
drugs?
because it's like you see the imperfections of people, right?
Okay.
And that's what it comes down to. You see religion, you think, okay, people aren't perfect, because you hear all sorts and you see all sorts behind closed doors, right? So for me, it's like religion is a strict. I'm always been a bit of a rebel.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's like school. I was never really like a sensible child, right? And even like for me, if you give me rules, if you give me like a strict box to put me in, I will break outside that box.
Yeah.
That was my mindset growing up, right? So when religion is confined in rules, and you constantly feel like it's a jail sentence, and when you come out, you're gonna like go wild, and especially when you first take money. Like, I didn't invest my first bit of money. I blew it all, because it's like you get to the point of, you've never had it before,
Yeah.
so you want to go try it, and you want to go experience, and you want to go do all these things, and that's where it all goes wrong, because you've been confided and forced upon you. So naturally, like it's like a spring. You push back long enough to a person up until they're bored, and they're just gonna spring out. So, but if we taught religion and like in a more modern, more sophisticated, more sort of like the beauty of the religion and what it teaches us, and not the rules and guidelines, I think more people will fall in love with religion.
So I think I had that experience where we went to a few mosques. One of the mosques was really strict rules. You should fear Allah, and it's all hellfire. You do this wrong, you do that wrong. And the other mosque was more about the love and the beauty of the religion, and I always was driven more and more engaging towards the
Mm.
second. So I feel like sometimes when something's forced upon you and you're almost taught to be fearful of the consequences as opposed to the rewards and the beauty of it, there's two different styles of teaching there, isn't there?
It's like I don't know if you've been to the new Cambridge Mosque.
I've
The
not
new
been, no.
It's the new eco-friendly mosque in the UK, right? And I remember going there and I prayed and I started crying, and then I had my niqab there as well, like later
Oh,
on,
yeah.
right? So I remember that it's the first time I've heard someone talk more about love than anything else.
Wow.
Religious scholar. How many religious scholars do you hear talking about our local community, religious like imams and people like that talk about love, the power of love? They don't, because what they're saying to you, well, you shouldn't do. Like teachers, they you shouldn't be doing this. That's why we have naughty kids, because they're told not to do this. They stifle creativity in life. The same way, in religious institutions, the love for religion is taken away. Because when you first get into religion, you remember as a kid, right? You're excited to pray with your parents, and you do all of these things, right? And you're putting on the hat, and you're looking good and feeling good to go to the mosque. That dies when you get older. But if you fall in love with religion, you start to embrace that a little bit more. At some point, our institutions, our the way our societies, our communities hold us back from success. Like there gets to a stage. I think regardless of which community you're from, I think you get to a point where you won't be able to progress any further in life unless you have to start doing different things and changing your life in different ways.
That's a really powerful topic and conversation to have, and I don't feel like it's had much those kind of conversations. So, thank you for that. I'm going to move it on to Abdul Shakur Investments. I want to talk a little bit about your journey, your business. So, what is it? What kind of services do you offer to begin with?
So we provide a lot of consultancy services. So first we teach and we work with clients on how to raise capital from investors. Because I did it for developers for so many years and people in business. I there's an art to it. Just like there's an art to making a suit, or there's an art to marketing yourself on social media, there's an art to raising capital. And I've mastered that art, and I've put it into a system that regardless of which business or which industry you're from, I can make it work for you. And that's the first element of it. Now the other businesses, yes, people can invest in us and we can give them a return and we can do all of that stuff, right? And that's just an element of it. But along that journey in your life, you're gonna get to certain points where you're gonna have to do certain things. Now what we've done is we've started to buy the businesses and provide the services at every level. So say for example, you've made your money, your business is a success now. You need to go buy a commercial property. You need to fit it out. Brilliant. I've got someone who can help us find a commercial property. I've got a build team to fit it out for you. Okay, then you need to franchise your business. I can franchise it for you. Now you need to take that step out your business and outsource operations. We've got a business that does that. You want to market your business? We've got a video agency and a CMO who can help you step in and support that. What I've built is an ecosystem. This ecosystem is like a one-stop shop
Just like the
for the
whole of the
industry.
supply chain.
Yeah, and that's what it is. I learned that the quickest way to make money is to control the supply chain.
I think it's similar to what something like what IKEA does, where they control the whole supply chain from creating the product to bringing it right through to retail
Yeah.
and everything in between.
People who make the most money are in the traditional businesses, not the exciting businesses. People think, oh, okay, you got to do this AI innovative stuff or this tech products, and where's all the money? Real money or traditional money is still in the traditional businesses that have been providing services to supply chains for decades. The builders, the architects, the mortgage brokers, the structural engineers, the cleaning companies. Like most people don't know, but the cleaning company is a hell of a profitable business.
Yeah.
But it's the most boring thing to do. But it's like it's the most exciting business to make a lot of money. You'll get quicker to 1 million with the cleaning business than you will with the tech business or with an e-commerce store.
That's food for thought. So, in essence, your business, you'll buy businesses, this
Yeah.
investment group, you'll buy businesses,
We'll
you'll
invest in them.
also raise capital for commercial projects or the developers.
Someone invest with us.
Okay. That's
Well,
just a normal person.
normal person, right?
They'll invest with you.
Someone will invest with us, right? An angel investor. They've got a few properties to name. They've got a decent amount of wealth, right? They've invested with us, right? Now we'll invest that money, but we're not making money out of the investor's money. We're saying where we invest that money, which is real estate, care homes, and buying other companies, right?
Yeah.
We'll invest that money into them, but we're not making money out of your money. We're making like most wealth managers or things do. We make money out of the services that provide. So in that contract or in that term where I've invested into this property developer, this care provider, or wherever this is, right? I've provided services to them. So every time I invest in them, my businesses all grow. So my goal is to get to 100 businesses that are all paying, I don't know, 20, 30 grand a month into my main company, right? And they're all individual businesses run by different people, but they're all paying a certain amount. We're always cash flow positive. We will never run out of money. Rather than being a developer myself, going through the struggle of building a property, doing the refurb, selling it, doing all that stuff, I realized that I can own 10% of something and do it 100 times in a year, then own 100% of something and only do it twice a year.
Wow, that's clever. So just say if I give you 100 grand, you go out and you buy a care home
I'll
business.
go buy a business and I'll invest it into there. I will grow that to a certain amount of profit.
So who then owns that business?
So I'll have equity share in it.
And I'll have equity share in it.
You will get a return for your money. Big investment funds in the world, they raise $1 billion, they raise a couple of billion, they'll go shopping, they'll go buy stuff. And over a 10-year period, or a 5-year period, or for however year period, right, they will give that investors their money back. But they own everything.
So how does an average person go out and start a business in your industry? Is it quite difficult or?
Yeah, it's the most toughest thing you can do. You need to understand we're a very unique model, and you got to realize I've not done this from scratch. This is 10, 13, 14 years in the making, because I've learned from all the different aspects of all the different businesses. I'm an operator. I'm not someone that's gonna, look at my beauty brand, or look at my business. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that works behind the scenes and knows how to take your business. You can be in the limelight, but I will take your business to £1 million. That's the person I am. Not I'm there to be the face of the business and run your business all the time. You're running your business. That's you. That's down to you. I'd rather take 20% equity in your business but help you get to £1 million quicker than anyone else will. Because I've got contacts, I've got information, I've got resources, and I've got money.
So just out of curiosity, if you took my soup business, how would you then 10x it, or what would you do with it, just out of curiosity?
All right. The first thing I would do with your business is, one, increase your marketing.
Okay.
So I would basically have someone really come in and devise your full marketing strategy. Second thing, I would take all your admin and outsource it to the Philippines. It's a company that we run. So we own a video agency and a marketing agency. We also run an outsourcing business in the Philippines. So I would outsource 80% of operations for you. Your shop front, everything, start to scratch, all your tech, everything, outsource all of it. So you're now focused on doing the more public things and doing the stuff. Eventually, I would invest money to hire a bunch of tailors and build your own little studio, which you're doing, but get it right, get the model right. Then I'll be like, okay, how can I 10x the sales? How can I bring in more business? Let's create a manual for sales, right? That we can repeat, that other people can do, that we don't have to do, right? So there's people out there who are doing sales for you that you having to do it. Then I'll be like, okay, how can I franchise this? But then, okay, how do we also own the commercial properties? So how do we buy the properties and also make money from the properties, but also make money from the business? How do we do
Wow.
both? Then I'll be like, okay, what do we do in this scenario? How do we diversify? Maybe we go into the accessories industry. Maybe go into like a very particular area of like, maybe go into subscription boxes, because subscription boxes is retainer fee money. So I would look at other revenue streams and other ways of making money. Maybe I would create a tech platform out of it and have an AI platform that basically helps you figure out your size, and you can do this whole bespoke thing completely without having to come into a studio. I'd create some funny marketing gimmick around VR. So I'd get people to imagine them wearing a suit on, or create a VR experience where I'm doing the bespoke tailoring but in a VR world. I would then look at, okay, I'll franchise this. Okay, how do we franchise in different countries? So then you take it to the next phase of, okay, maybe open up a store in Europe, then maybe open a store in Dubai. How do we get influencers around that? How do we build more franchises? Maybe get someone to have a master franchise in America. Like my vision is like it goes like literally from one thing to another. Like
Wow.
it doesn't stop. I can keep going. By the way, I can come out with 100 different ideas to build your business from scratch.
Inshallah, you've got the brains for it. Yeah, I can see. I'm taking notes.
But the thing is, most people are leaving their jobs to start a business to work in their business.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that says no, don't do that. Become a CEO. And a CEO, people have it as a name, as like a title, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a CEO of this and this. I'm a founder of this and this. A CEO is someone who's able to run a company without being involved in it. That's my definition of a CEO. Someone who's able to execute, make decisions quick enough. Like I was sitting with one of the executive directors at Tata Group. If you don't know Tata, they're one of the billions of dollar company, but they own Jaguar Land Rover. They own all these companies, right? They're based in India. They have literally cornered a lot of the Indian market. They own luxury hotels. They own Tetley Tea. They own loads of stuff, right? Now I remember sitting with the executive director, and the conversation he was saying, he was like, I was like, what did you learn from the founders of Tata? He goes, their ability to make decisions quick and move quick, an ability to hire the right people. So imagine now you create a tailoring academy and you start training people up how to tailor. Create the next generation of bespoke tailors. Young people that love the idea of suits. Get them into tailors. But then guess what you do then? You then start to have all these guys set up their own little studios, and you invest into their studios, and you build this whole chain of people who part of their academy that have gone on to becoming tailors. Now you become a leading figure in the tailoring world because you've trained so many people in this space.
Yeah, that's the vision.
So then you go, and then you not only have you got staff that you can hire yourself, but also you're now all the franchisees that you have in the future, they could all be part of that.
We'll have to talk about that off camera. We can't be revealing too much. But no, 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 I like those ideas. No, they're really good and they make sense. And I like how big and widespread your vision is. You can see things outside the box.
Yeah, but the only way you can do that is by having that CEO mindset, and a lot
Yeah,
of the time that CEO mindset is by actually my business partner who runs the outsourcing company. He calls it an outsourced CEO.
yeah.
You literally need to be the best person at hiring a team, outsourcing your business, and that's how you scale. Scalability, how you get from the 100 grand to the million is essentially through bringing in the right people or outsourcing.
Yeah, and being able to delegate the work as opposed to being an employee for your business. That makes total sense. I've heard that theme come up quite often in these episodes. So, for yourself, I've got a couple of quick questions that I'll fire at you.
Sure.
One of them is for an average person, a lot of our listeners don't have a hell of a lot of wealth, or maybe they've got 10, 15 grand in their bank accounts, 5 grand, maybe even less. What is the best way to invest £5,000 or £10,000 in this current climate with your experience?
Invest into a business that can give you a return. So go to a profitable company, find a loan, and just basically loan them the money.
Okay. Is that
So
easily done?
yeah, you just need to find good profitable businesses that you can find. We do it for our clients.
So if someone gave you £5,000,
I'd
you
go and give it to a profitable business that can give me an X amount of return, right? And I do that myself. So I invest into businesses. I can look at, okay, how do I get my return? I can get a return through equity, or I can get a return through a just providing finance and getting it back.
Yeah.
That's what the high net worth individuals do. All them people in the money, real money in the world, that's what they do. They loan out their money. So you can take 10 grand and you can say, I'm willing to go. I'll give you an example. Like one of my clients is a local independent garage. They're doing 100k profit. Like they're really smashing it. One of the biggest independent garages, award winning, really good numbers, really well, good reputation. I'm like, I can be like, okay, if I gave you 10 grand, would you be able to give me like a 10% return on it or a 12% return on it? And he would look at me and think, yeah, I can do that because he has inventory and parts and it allows him to build his business, right?
Yeah.
Because if he can utilize that money and provide more parts or hire another staff member, that money can go to good use. But I just want a return. I want, okay, I'll give you 12, 24 months, give me that money back with return. Obviously, there's securities and things that you have to think about, but the concept on a very basic level is that simple. So with me is I rather put my money into businesses where I know that they're profitable areas, I know that they're good business owners, the values are important. So when you're investing, it's important to understand the values of that individual and not just their business, because they could be great businesses people, but their values are just shit. That's a no. So I look for people with great values, and that's what I start from. The next phase up is, which most people don't know about, which is what they call SaaS pensions.
Okay.
And I've talked about this in a previous episode, but most people have in their day jobs are contributing to a pension scheme with their employer, and the employer also contributes back, right? So if you're, apart from if you're working in local authority or I think it's NHS, that's the only two you can't. But majority of the workplaces, you can take that pension scheme, move it into what they call a SAS pension, double SAS. That pension scheme then allows you to then invest into commercial property.
I've seen this where I think I used to work in Leeds City Centre, and it's a huge building complex, and the owner would come in and he'd be like, "This is owned by a pension fund." Never really understood it, but
Pension, that's slightly different. So that pension funds buy properties because they're utilizing your money to invest, right?
is that
So
what they
this
do?
is the other way around. So now with a SAS pension, you're in control. So you're acting like your own pension fund.
So you're in full control of
You're
it.
in control of it. So you obviously you have trustees and certain things you can or can't do with that money, but it's regulated by HMRC. So your money is protected, right?
Right.
So what you then go and do is, okay, you can loan 50% of that back into your own business,
Okay.
or you can go buy commercial property with it.
And it's owned by you and not a
Not a pension
separate
fund. So
fund.
you're in control. You make the decisions as to where that money
Wow.
is invested, right?
That's powerful. Yeah, that's really
Obviously, there's
interesting.
trustees which you have to get approval of. So certain investments can't have to be approved, right? But majority of the time, you can set up a SAS pension and you can buy a commercial property. Right? Now, imagine you do this. Imagine you buy the commercial property, but underneath it, you put a franchise in it. You put a chaiwala in it, for example, right? But then you also buy into the chaiwala
You buy the franchise and the commercial
and the
property.
commercial property, right?
Right.
So then you're now making double money in it. Now imagine that on top of that chaiwala, there's apartment schemes. You put that in Airbnb and you turn it into apartment schemes. And you rent them out, or you do the development project, so you actually build the apartments and make it more of an Airbnb or whatever, right? So now you're making three different income streams. Then on top of that, you then you go to the next phase, which is okay. Once you've got to the point where you're making between 5 and 15 grand a month, you basically start to then do bigger chunks of investment. So you've got your cash flow sorted, then you do your bigger chunks, which are your 500 grand, and you go buy a big property development. But you always take your money out. So in 12 to 24 months' time, the idea was that you're always constantly taking your money out. Your money's not tied into things for the long term. I always believe in that you have to stay cash rich. And so if I do invest in businesses, I look at things that can produce me high levels of cash flow. So I look at the care home industry. I look at buying profitable companies that are in property, things that are not going to go anywhere anytime soon. You only need, there's always be a need for care, there'll be a need for property in the work, right? Because we have a huge housing shortage. We have, the government, children's care or care homes are hugely profitable because people need care. People are getting old. People have problems. There are challenges in life, right? So you always need care on property. So when I look at investment, I think of it as, okay, what do people always need? That's what I then go and buy. And so you then, like, imagine now, over the course of the next 7 years, you've got some money that you've loaned out that's paying you every 6 or 12 months and giving you a return. So you may say you invest 20 grand and someone gives you a 20% return, whatever, right? Or even a 10% return. Now that gives you 2 grand back. So imagine you take the 2 grand out and pay off part of your mortgage and you put the 20 grand back in. So every 6 to 12 months you're taking your return out, putting the initial back in. So you're living off your returns
Yeah.
and not your money. But your money is always there, right? The next phase is buying commercial assets or buying things that are income producing. So that could be businesses, like right now commercial properties do really well. Or if you're buying properties, I'll look at properties that you can give to care providers that pay you more than the normal market rent. Or I would buy into companies and be a silent partner as an equity partner. And then once you get to a certain amount of wealth, you can essentially just go and do things with the large chunks of money, like, be part of a massive property development project. But I'm a big believer that there's two types of investors, right? There's hands on and hands off. You have to be very honest with yourself, whether you're a hands on investor or a hands off investor. Because a hands on investor is someone who rolls up his sleeve and does the work. He's got sweat equity, right?
Yeah.
There's the other person who's a hands off investor who just wants to give his money. But the problem is with the hands off investors is they want to get involved, but they shouldn't. Hands off investors should stay hands off investors. Let the people who know what they're doing get to work. The hands off investors should be people who want to sit back, enjoy the security of the money, take their returns, take their equity, take their whatever they have, and just sit back. But let other people do the work. Now the problem is even with people don't want to spend on things, right? For example, like I know people with 10 properties that still managing the properties themselves. Why not give that to an estate agent and step out of it? Why do you have to be hands on? Just because you're trying to save 10%?
It's that Asian mindset of making, it's just wasting money.
I'm a big believer that if you want to solve your financial problems, make more money, don't save it. Obviously, you need some part of saving, so it's a smart move to always save, right? But at some level, you need two things. You need skills to make more money, or you need to make the right investment opportunities. Those are the two things to make more money, to build serious amount of wealth. That's how you do it. And I remember my accountant saying it to me, and she's a very smart businesswoman, and she said something to me interesting to me. She goes, "If you're not, I give myself a 40 grand pay rise a year," and I thought, okay, why? It's not worth it otherwise for me. I work all this hard. I put all this time and effort in. Why can I not give myself a pay rise every year? So imagine this now. Your employer can't give you a pay rise.
Yeah.
So you need to give yourself a pay rise through other means. That's what we need to do with our wealth. We need to look at alternative stuff that produces us income or that helps us make that, this is why inflation is hurting people. The cost of living price is hurting people because they rely on the one income or the one thing that they have. They might have a few properties, but that's it.
So inflation, for people that don't understand, in simple terms, can you just explain it?
It's the cost of living, and if you don't give yourself a 15% pay rise every year in income, the cost of living is gonna eventually affect you or impact you in some way. I'll give you an example. So, do you know if you guys remember Freddo, the chocolate?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They were
10p.
10p back in
5,
the day.
10p back in
Now
the day,
they're
yeah.
25, 30, 40, 50p now.
Yeah.
So the cost of living is constantly going to rise because resources are becoming scarce. Things are going to go up. Energy, house prices, everything's going to go up. You can buy a 30 grand house, 10 grand house back in the days. You can't do that anymore. So you have to keep up with that. So if your income doesn't keep up with that, then there's a problem. That's why so many nurses and so many people are on strike right now. Because they're not getting paid enough. And they know that they're working those dog hours, but they're still getting paid the same. So you have to produce more income. If it's not through your employer, it has to be through some other means.
So your experience and your advice for the average listener out there, what kind of advice would you give to them? Invest in businesses if they have a small amount of money available. If they don't, what kind of advice can you give them to help them improve their life and achieve success?
Understand what knowledge and skills you have and learn to go sell them.
Okay.
In our culture, in our mindset, a lot of people struggle with sales. Like, you need to be able to sell stuff. Bottom line. You can be a great marketer. You can show the world that you've got all the lifestyle. But until you learn how to close deals, to learn to sell, that's one of the biggest skills that will help you from never going broke ever again in your life. because you've got this ability to pick up the phone or even just send out, like for example, I know that in my on my social media, I have a team in the Philippines that are sending out personalized messages. Now, you're sending out personalized messages, you're getting appointments booked in, right? Or you're doing ads or whatever you're doing, you're getting appointments booked in. But if you can't close a deal, none of that matters. So you need to have this closer's mentality of all I'm thinking about in my head, if I'm ever running out of money or if I ever need money, what can I close? Who can I close right now? Who can I get money to do right now? Okay, and but okay, what if you, and a lot of the time for businesses, they don't have a money problem. They have a pipeline problem. I'll give you an example. You're probably thinking, okay, I've got 5, 10 leads in my inbox right now that I
Yeah.
can chase. I can get some sales, right? But no, that shouldn't be the thing. Why are you chasing the idea of like those 5 or 10 clients? Why don't you focus on getting 100 appointments into the door? Increase the amount of volume of appointments or the volume of leads that will eventually get you more sales. So you need the ability to increase your pipeline and the ability to close deals. I can look at any business right now and I guarantee you they have a pipeline problem.
Yeah.
80% of businesses that I look at invest in like any entrepreneurs I meet, they have a pipeline problem. They don't have enough people in their pipeline at this very current moment, and they're not even tracking it. They're not even measuring it. They're not even understanding where that information is flowing, and then they might even, or they might have that, but they're terrible closers. Let's put business down to basics. It's being able to sell a skill or something of value. It's being able to build a pipeline or get attention now because we're in a competitive environment. So get attention, build a pipeline, and close deals. If we do those 4 things day in, day out, then we'll always make money.
It's a straightforward formula. For Asians, as you know, Asians love cash. There's stuff like committees, which you'll probably be aware of. People pay into a committee every month or every week, £200 a week, and then they end up getting their lump sum of cash whenever it's their time. And they're cash rich, but they don't really have money in the bank account. What kind of advice would you give to people to build up their credit rating and legitimate sources of income? Because you can't really invest cash.
I think in our culture we have this thing where we shy away from tax, right?
Yeah,
And this is where a lot of people go wrong in their business. At some point in time, if you wanna have your $1 million billion company, right, you're gonna have to pay tax at some point. Otherwise, what do people do? You've seen it in our local shops, right? They'll close down the business after 2 years. Blah, we didn't make any money. Don't have to pay tax. Create a separate name. Start the business back up again.
just a cycle.
Cycle, right? So now, at some point, you need to either one, invest in your business, and two, you need to build and grow it, and you need to pay tax at some point. The only way you build your credit history or you build your financial knowledge is by paying for things more regularly. Like, I'll give you an example. I know someone who has a large income, might have cash in their hand, but because they've not borrowed money or because they've not bought properties or because they've not utilized that money in the financial system that we have today, then they're not investable enough.
Yeah,
They're not. Because what happens when you, like, the smart people do this, they'll get £1 million cash in the bank and they'll go to a big investment company or a big banking institution, not your typical high street banks, and they'll be like, I want a £5 million credit line, but I'll give you £1 million.
okay.
So they'll utilize £1 million to get them for a £5 million, and then they'll utilize that money to then invest into what they need to do. And the other thing is, most people don't realize the benefits of paying back off your property quicker. So, for example, if you're paying off your property quicker, which is what the banks don't like because they like the fact that you've got a loan that stretches this long and you're paying off quicker, they will be like, oh shit, this person's paying off quicker, which means we need to borrow them more money, which we need to get them onto more products, which means we want to give them extend their credit line.
Yeah,
Like, people don't understand that debt is a very powerful thing if used correctly. And I'm going to say this, used correctly. Because if you don't understand how to use it, it can go terribly wrong. A bit like how when the bounce back loans came out, everyone took out a bounce back loan, right? But they went and blew that money. But a smart person would have taken that bounce back loan and thought, how do I utilize this to get me 100 grand? How do I utilize this to make me more money? So when it comes to paying the initial money back off, I've made money from the profits.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just took the money and spent it on whatever they wanted. They weren't even entitled to the money.
Now businesses are going bankrupt because they're declaring like they get struck off of directors because they didn't pay the bounce back loan off.
Yeah, and they weren't entitled to it in the first place. They just inflated the figures.
Right? So at some point in time, you have to start doing things in a legitimate manner. Because at some point, we live in a country which is driven by rules and stuff. Why do you think a lot of people move into Dubai? Because they don't want to live by those rules. But if you can make it in this country, like if you can make success in this country, you can make success anywhere else in the world. The problem is people don't want to do things by the book. And if you don't do things by the book, the problem is that you want shortcuts and an easy way out, which is why people move to Dubai or Qatar, right? Where the money
Yeah.
is, right? Or where there's tax free and there's all these loopholes. But what if you try doing it right here?
I feel like I've had this conversation before in a few podcasts where people feel like the taxes, the value for money, and everything that they get in the UK isn't what it used to be. What are your thoughts around that in terms of the amount of tax you pay versus what you get back?
You just gotta be smart. You don't have access to the level of information that wealthy people have. There's plenty of wealthy people in the UK.
That know how to play the game properly.
They don't have to play the game properly. But they also understand that they know how to make more money. The reason why people want to move out there is because people want to take their current income
And just,
and live comfortably,
yeah,
which is a smart move for a lot of people. But if you truly want to live a life, you gotta learn how to make more money
in the UK,
in the UK.
by the laws that are already in place
But there were rules
for the
all in
wealthy.
place for the wealthy, right?
It's just a game that you got to try and learn, and most people don't really understand the rules.
Yeah, but they haven't educated themselves. They haven't got themselves aware. Like most people don't know about pension schemes and how, like for example, inheritance tax hurts a lot of our Asian communities because when our parents pass away, they don't understand that you need to set up a trust or you need to put money into pension schemes to make it so you don't get inheritance tax, which is like 40-50% or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So you know that things hurts our communities. Why would you not get yourself educated in these areas to avoid situations like that?
In the Asian community, you don't really use financial advisors or get educated in inheritance tax, all these basic
Like,
maths.
you know, all those really like super executives or CEOs.
Yeah.
The minute they get to 30, 35, right, they're financial advisors. Yeah, 30, 35 years old. They get to 50, 60 grand a year or wherever it is, right? And they start paying for financial advisors. Why? Because they understand that then there's you pay for information, you pay for access, you pay for opportunities. That's what you're paying for.
So for yourself, what does the future hold for yourself? What kind of things have you got in the pipeline? What are you up to?
I want like, for me, I'm gonna build this. I'm trying to build an accessible version of Blackstone. If you guys don't understand, Blackstone is one of the biggest investment companies or private equity firms in the world, right?
Yeah.
Property wise, business wise, they've done it all. And I'm trying to build an accessible version of it. What do I mean by accessible? I want to make it accessible to people and buy businesses and services and things that are going to benefit the community, that hire local people, that build things sustainable, right? But that's, you know, if I can do that successfully and just keep building from city to city, from region to region, from country to country, like I want to have an office in every big capital of the world, right? That's the idea behind it. But if you can get your company onto an IPO, so get it onto the stock exchange. So my goal is to get my company onto the stock exchange,
Right.
so I can play with the bigger players, or even if I don't, the idea is to have that much level of access to financial wealth and information resources that I can do anything. And then what I want to do is I want to put that resource or put that information or put that thing and help the next generation become financially free. Like literally like set up business schools. set up centers that make money for the community, like do all of that stuff. Like, because that's my purpose in this world. It's not for me to build a successful company so I can spend it all. It's actually okay. I want my legacy to live for the next 100,000 years. How do I build a company? How do I build something big enough that it lasts beyond me as a person? And this is the difference between having a personal brand and having a business brand. You can have a personal brand, brilliant, but how big is your company? How are you changing the game in your company so your company can outlive you? Most people don't think that far ahead because why? They're living from paycheck to paycheck, or they're trying to get to that next financial goal in their business. They're not thinking about that, that 50-year vision.
Makes sense. That sounds like you've got some exciting things going ahead, and inshallah you'll achieve everything you're doing. It's a very exciting industry that you're in. Obviously, investments, buying businesses, involved in some of the deals that you're in. I feel like I could talk to you about it for another few hours. To be fair, don't want to take too much of your time on a Sunday, but it just goes to show you've come here on a Sunday. Most people have got their days off. You've come here nice and early to do this, so I can see your work ethic, and inshallah we do something with the suits as well. I'm gonna try and pick your brain a little bit, sit down with you sometime, and pick your brain to see what I can get out of you as well. So thank you very much for coming down. Any final pieces of advice to our entrepreneurs? There's a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, people that haven't started their businesses, people that are running businesses, people that are struggling.
I think, well, firstly, I say start working on the business. That's the first thing, right? But I've already said that. But one thing I say is don't get distracted by the shiny penny syndrome.
Okay.
So what I mean is that don't look at what other people are doing. I do not care about who's doing what in the industry. I in whatever in any industry. I'm a guy that puts his head down, focuses on build, 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 up until the stage where I can then look up and be like, okay, let's see what else is going on. A lot of people are we need to do Amazon stuff, or we need to do this stuff, or we need to make quick money here and there. And they're finding all these ways to quick money, or they're jumping from the next thing because the one thing that they wanted to do didn't work.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you an example. In your shoes, you should be like, I want to try and last 10 years in the suits game. I'm going to put my head down and focus on just on the suits game for the next 10 years. Like,
Sense.
that's the mentality that I have. I'm putting my head down and just cracking on with it. And I don't care about other influencers. I don't care about hanging around with these individuals. I don't care about what the next funny strategy is or the next big thing I'm just going to focus on what I need to do and get it right and get it systemized and scale it. That is my focus. Anything outside of that, I'm not going to get distracted by it.
I love that. That's a great way to end the podcast. Thank you very much for coming on the CEO Club. Is there any way that people can contact you?
So they can find me on Instagram, Abdul Shakur, LDN, Abdul Shakur London. They can visit our website, shakurinvest.com. They can just reach out to me. I'm sure if you Google my name, you'll find it.
Contact details will come up. Thank you very much for listening, guys. If you've got to the end, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. And reach out to him if you're interested in any investments, business opportunities. Really nice, friendly person that will give you the advice that you need. And keep an eye out for the next episode.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.